Daniel, thank you so much for coming on Anatomical Gangster and sharing some of your wisdom about what you've learned as a student of science in so many ways and what you're doing with your work. I have your research paper up on my screen, and I would love for you first, perhaps, just to share a little bit about your medical journey and this path that you have is so incredible from Colombia to US, and now you're in Argentina. Walk me through a little bit about your journey into medicine and your personal influences that shaped your career.
Okay, thank you very much to you and your audience. It has been a real challenge to get to where I am exactly. I was born in Colombia. I lived when I was 3 years old. My mom was took me to the U.S. I lived over there for 10 years. Then I lived my adolescent years in Colombia from 10 to 16. So that's why I got that roots of my Colombian people in me. And then I went back to the US when I was 16. I did high school over there. I went to California. And then I was there a total for like 21 years. But I used to be a veterinary technician. I worked for 7 years in different hospitals. I worked specifically in San Fernando Valley at Dill Veterinary Hospital, great experience. But I used to have everything legal in the US, but my documentation expired and I wasn't able to renew them on time. But then I didn't get an opportunity to stay, so I had to leave the US. So I was arrested, taken to jail for 40 days, and then I was taken to back to Colombia just like a prisoner, just like in Con Air in the movie. It's exactly the same.
Mm.
So when I was in Colombia in 2010, January 2010, I spent New Year's in Christmas and New Year's in jail. It was a very good experience. But then in January 2010, I went to Colombia and I was able to ask my God because I have a close relationship with Christ and I asked him why is all this happening. I had 1 year into my baptism, and so I had a dream. I had a dream where an angel told me that one day you'd be a great surgeon. And so I started preparing to, do and enter an exam to any school to do medicine. I was already 31, 32. And so then I had another dream that I had to migrate to Argentina to come to a specific school called the River Plate Adventist University in Puigari. And so I came with no money, I arrived to Buenos Aires with $300. Then I got here a few days later. I found a job the following day, and then I just did the entrance exam a couple of months later, and I passed my exam, and I started medical school with no money. But then along the years, I got suspended like 7 times because I didn't pay anything, but the money just kept coming through little by little. It just was learning how to walk by faith and not by sight. And so I've been delayed a little bit of school because of the money and because some classes that I had to repeat. But I'm right now, I have got 4 final exams to go and then I'm done with my career. But along these years, what been doing is been focusing on how to help with cancer. And I did pray how to find a way to help with cancer with natural medicine. And the Lord has been revealing little by little what I've been working on because I have other research that I've been doing. Thanks to the government of Argentina, when they saw this study, they asked me to do some oncology research with them. And so I've been working as an intern for the National Scientific and Technical Research Council of Argentina, known as CONICET. So right now I have like 4 paper studies published with them. And so right now I'm just, working on a current hypothesis using fruit DNA to stimulate the immune system the same way that this study showed me. So I'm applying that technology into the clinical area, but using something that is non-toxic and everybody can use it at home.
Wow. I mean, first of all, it's always a bit of a breath of fresh air when you hear somebody who has more of a science background in going to medical school, but also has faith and a belief in, asking a higher power to give me some guidance. And I have to say, I've had many experiences of that, of like, why is this happening? And then suddenly it's revealed. And I think that's beautiful. Now, this is a big topic, and I'm sure that a lot of people who are listening are going to want to hear a bit about this. And there's a number of things I want to talk to you about, but you say you have this groundbreaking discovery, and your research paper that I have here, I'm going to read it, the title to everybody. It's the relationship between the exposure of malaria in an endemic zone and its association with cancer incidences. And it's basically you're making a inverse association between malaria infection and the risk of cancer. This is so fascinating. Tell us a little bit about this research paper and what the discovery is.
Okay, so I'm gonna make it very plain and simple. So what I found is that especially in South America, mostly in Brazil, especially in Manaus, it's where you find the Amazon, and it's the biggest city in Brazil. But we saw different countries in Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and so we saw the new cases. It's called the incidents, the new cases of malaria since 1990 for 29 years, 2009, and see how was the incidence rate. So what we found that as the medication got much better and better, and also the health services provided by each country, malaria went down, but at the exact same rate, the cancer incidence started to go up.
Yes,
So
I've read this. This is tremendous. I see that it says the authors reviewed available databases through 30 years, examining both sexes between people 25 years of age or older, and analyzed the association between malaria, years of incidence, nutrition risk, and having different types of cancers. Fascinating.
yeah. So it was. Trust me that when I say this, I didn't find this by accident because I read a study from Stanford University back in 2019, and I had to just something told me to learn this very well, and I read it like 3 times, and then the Spirit of God told me now go to the library and open the newest book of immunology. And I've known that when you don't know what you're looking for, you don't understand what you find. So I went to the library. I sat for 5 hours and a half, not knowing what I was looking for. And then on page 29, I found that the study that I read at Stanford University, they used to give these gene sequences called the unmethylated CpG into tumors, and that would create a tumor regression. Well, what happens? DNA from malaria has that little specific genome sequence as well. So then that's what I started to investigate. In other countries where there was malaria, there was just very little cancer. And that's when it clicked. And then I started looking for the information. And then I was given a scholarship for that. And then that's when the government of Argentina they found out about it, and they asked to work with me. And so we worked together and have it published in 2023.
And so, I mean, again, as I read through this, I've highlighted quite a bit of these pieces, but some of this is that in 1981, that was the turning point in countries with endemic malaria incidences, because malaria incidences increased while all the cancer-causing mortality decreased. And then you're saying it flipped.
Exactly. There are some countries that didn't have malaria, like Chile, Uruguay, because of the weather conditions. So they always have that cancer incidence steady. Not like the other countries that they had some malaria, and so there wasn't as much in some zones, like south of Colombia and Leticia, Amazons, you would see malaria because it's close to Brazil. No, so it is only in the places where you see the infection of malaria. So what happens is that when a person is infected with malaria, this is an acute infection. It lasts for about 3 weeks. But if you don't get it treated, it would constantly replicate the parasite in the blood because it's a parasite that the mosquito, it bites you, then it delivers a structure that changes in the liver, and then it has an asexual reproduction, and so then it multiplies many times. It ruptures the liver sites, and then it goes in back into the blood, and then it invades the red blood cells, and then it starts multiplying again, and it bursts the red blood cells, and then you get chronic hemolysis. So you start losing a lot of red blood cells, a lot of hemoglobin, and people can die from anemia. That's one of the main causes.
So
So,
is it that there are molecules that inhibit regulatory T cells? Is
so,
is
so
that part of
diving
it?
into so what I found in bibliography is that when a person gets infected with malaria and the white blood cells, especially the antigen presenting cells that you find, like say, in your skin, the Langerhans cells, they consume the parasite, and then once they start breaking down the DNA inside of the white blood cells, they get that genetic sequence, the unmethylated CpG. So the unmethylated means it doesn't have a methyl group. And CpG stands for the cytosine, a phosphate, and the guanine, which is DNA. So there's an organelle within the white blood cells called the endosome, and the endosome has a receptor called the toll-like receptor 9, the TLR9. That TLR9 recognizes that genetic sequence. So when they dock together, it will express over that white blood cells in the membrane another receptor, another protein called the OX40L, which is a ligand. So it comes to the surface, and then the white blood cells that are activated, CD4, CD8, has the OX40 molecules that dock into it. And that's what promotes the effector T cells that fight the cancer cells, and also inhibits the inhibitory cells. So it's a lot of people don't understand that we can beat cancer. Nothing cures cancer. There are medications and treatments that can kill cancer, but they can also kill you. But it is the immune system that repairs the body. You understand? The reason why our own body cannot fight cancer on itself is because since it's our own cancer, since it's our own cells, it creates a barrier caused by inflammation, and that causes tumor microenvironment. It causes angiogenesis, the growth of the blood vessel. It also activates something called the myeloid-derived suppressant cells. That means the inflammation will start suppressing the immune system through the cells that you spoke about, the inhibitory T cells. You see, but
Mhm.
once that is activated, it inhibits the inhibiting cells. You understand?
Yeah.
So the idea is not to have somebody chronically infected with malaria so they can get better from cancer. The idea is to replicate that technology that's happening, but that biology happening there, use it for somewhere else. Because I once I published this, I'm like, okay, what is this used for, my lord? I asked, what can I do with this? And he says, well, can't you get that DNA from somewhere else? I'm like, of course, you can get it from plants or fruit. And I dive into it for a couple of years, and I did find it in a couple of them. And so now what we're trying to do is to isolate this DNA from these fruits. Then we have it available for people so they can put it in their mouth, put it in between their teeth and the lip, so DNA can get absorbed into the bloodstream, and see if we can create that same immune response, because it's going to absorb the unmethylated CpG in the fruit and then cause that same reaction. So that's what we're doing.
Wow. I mean, that just is fascinating because it sort of does sound like something like this could potentially cure different types of cancers. I know we're not supposed to use the word cure, so whatever you want to call it. But and if I'm to understand you right, it's that the malaria, because of how it affects the body and how it stimulates the immune system, that somehow that triggering of the immune system can actually fight cancer.
Exactly. It's like it's trying to beat malaria, but as a matter of fact, it's activating the immune system in order to fight cancer. So that's what we found, and so that's what we're working. I'm working towards that. Looking for fundings, because it's not easy to do these studies without any fundings.
Yes.
But,
Any fun,
but
any science. I mean, I've done one, they've used melt in one research paper, and it costs so much money to do research when people are like, oh, you need to do more research. I'm like, somebody give me some money and I'm happy to do research. But that's the problem, is when you have something so profound, it's actually hard to get the funding. It's really easy for these big companies to give you funding to find a new pharmaceutical, but something that's actually going to truly help people in this instance, I would almost think that they don't want people to know about this.
It's best to find private fundings, people that are, they love to help. And, it's something that is not expensive to work. And thanks to that research, I was able to explain to that government entity that asked me to do research with them. I found these herbs that actually also help to fight with cancer, and it's called the Essiac tea. The Essiac tea is very well known in Canada and also in the US and in parts in the world. There was even a book that was written about. I showed you not long ago this book. It is called the Essiac Report, by Richard Thomas. And there was this nurse in Canada called Reen Case that she found somebody that used this with when she had breast cancer back in 1890, and she was able to get better in less than a year. And so she helped, hundreds of people, and she suffered so much persecution that she had to do research in the U.S. because it was recognized by Dr. Charles Bruce, who was a medical doctor of John F. Kennedy back in the 50s. And so he invited her to do research with these herbs. So they did research for 8 years, from 1959 to 1967. They added four more herbs. And, the people started just getting better using the herbs. They weren't able to publish their research, but there is so much data in this book and also online that you can read about Dr. Charles Bruce. He even said that he got better from his, I think it was colon cancer, using the eight herb SAIT. So I found a company that owns, the formula, the, that is in Massachusetts, in Haverhill. This is genuine SAIT with Brian Paulus. He used to work with Dr. Charles Bruce. And so he did it for many years, and he helped his mother get better from breast cancer, I believe. And so before Dr. Chus passed away, he gave him the formula. He says, promise to keep this as cheap as possible. And he has done that. And he has been helping people for 40 years. In the last 4 decades, he has helped so many people with cancer that he is very well known around the world, especially in Australia and Israel and also the US. And so I'm working on bringing this to South America in the last 5 years with Essiac Latinoamérica, which is done in Paraguay.
Oh, wow. I mean, you're really speaking on so many things, because what I'm hearing you say, Leo, is you're talking about natural medicine, and natural medicine really sparks a lot of debate. And, you sound like somebody who's very grounded in natural remedies, in scientific evidence. So how do you navigate the balance between traditional and becoming, I guess, innovative in your work in this particular regard of talking about natural medicine?
Yes, thank you. Well, I have a lot of my colleagues that they just don't want to know about it. We study pharmacology in medical school, but we never study, much about what nature can provide. And if we are created from the earth, as it says in the Bible, our remedy is not going to come from a lab. Now, I am very grateful that modern medicine exists, because we need antibiotics, we need anesthesia, but all these things that is provided in labs, they're very good for very short term. You're not supposed to be using steroids for so many months and years because it has so many side effects. Natural medicine doesn't have much side effects because it doesn't have metabolites. These are the waste byproduct from the pharmaceutical. But we have all the nutrition, because that's what's called nutraceuticals, that the body will degrade and use it somewhere else. And
Mhm.
so because of this, I also was able to start working on a new treatment that I've been working on for the last 7 years. There is the only natural anti-inflammatory in the world, because all of the anti-inflammatories that exist is biochemically. So you take something, but there is nothing that is physical anti-inflammatory. So I was able to develop this activated charcoal poultice in gel that I'm working on the patent over here in Argentina, that you can apply on patients who has wounds. Now, what I'm going to be working on is to apply it one day on patients that has a laparoscopic surgery in the abdomen. Usually, a common complication is that inflammation that causes that the wall, the peritoneum with the intestines, they get stuck because the inflammation. It's kind of like, when an egg starts to fry and it coagulates, and it's the same thing. It gets sticky, so it causes the intestines to stop and not move. It's called ileum. But if you apply this activated charcoal poultice gel on the patients right after surgery, you're going to help reduce that inflammatory process to avoid these problems. And I've
And you're
helped so
saying on the skin, on the skin.
on the skin. And I even had people use this on open wounds in breast cancer. You have a lot of breast cancer that they come into the surface, but you apply this and it works so well because it does four things. It inhibits the Celsus tetrad. Celsus tetrad means that there's four symptoms that you will get on a wound usually. That you're going to change of color, you're going to change the heat, you're going to have pain, and you're going to have swelling. But so the activated charcoal has something called the van der Waals forces, and they work like what do you call it, a magnet. So instead of absorbing, they add here. They link like this. They have this small what is it called, electromagnetic forces that works into the proteins that works with the inflammation, the pro-inflammatory cytokines. So when you apply it, you're going to see the effects in minutes. People even had reactions in less than a minute. My son in the U.S. he burned his finger chemically, and he was 20 out of 10 with pain. But when he immediately put that charcoal poultice on his finger, he told me that in a minute or two that pain started to go down. So
Okay.
it's extremely well because that pain comes from inflammation. So if you remove the inflammation, you're immediately going to start subsiding the pain. So and it's natural. It doesn't have any side effects. And you can use it on open wounds that are already infected. So it's a natural thing that you can use.
Yeah, so it's a treatment to reduce postoperative syndromes. This was what you're talking to me before we got
All
on, right?
all types of inflammations. Yes.
And would you think, like, if somebody had a large scar, that even after the scar seals up, that you would want to put it on a scar? But is that also what you're saying? Like, you could put it on a scar to reduce the inflammation?
Yeah, you can do that. The idea is in this gel form. You can also do it in water form, but the thing is that it has to be you gotta have humidity, because if you apply it on the skin is going to evaporate because of the heat. So you're gonna have it. It's gonna be turned into dust. You want to clean it every 8 hours because you can get some of those black carbons into the skin and you can get it tattooed. But if you clean it every 6 to 8 hours and then put the new application on of the activated charcoal, it's just not going to happen. But as soon as you keep it clean every 6 hours, but the idea is that when you use it in gel form, it's going to last for 8 hours. If you use it in water, it's going to last for like an hour or less. So that's why I made it into a gel form.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. Helping patients recover post-operatively, it's just any type of post-surgery, anything that we can do to aid in decreasing inflammation. I mean, inflammation is a good thing. I think sometimes people are, they're so afraid of inflammation. Like, actually, and the inflammatory response is a good thing. It's just that there's no off button, and a lot of people then produce low-grade inflammation and a kind of a cytokine response where now their fascial tissue is also adapting, right? And all of these changes. So what tell me something that's been like, I would just think, what's the most rewarding feedback or result that you've seen from that treatment so far?
Well, the thing is that we combine different things using the Essiac tea, using this activated chocolate poultice. The first thing is that the pain subsides, within minutes. I had one patient about an hour away from where I live. She was 98. She had cancer of the vulva, very raw, very painful. And you can imagine the smell of death into her home. And when I went to the house and I applied it, and then the following day I called the nurse that was taking care of her. She told me, "Doctor, I am extremely grateful just for the smell because it took away the smell immediately. It took away all the smell away, but the area is no longer red. Like it's already, you can already see that it's the inflammation is gone. So the idea is to keep it, 16 hours a day, and during the nighttime, 8 hours. Let the body start healing, because that's the problem. Especially if you have a wound, you gotta let the base membrane to unite so it starts building the 5 layers of the skin. That's why you want to use it. 2/3 of the day with it, 1/3 of the night without it.
And is this a
And
product that's out today? Is this product actually available for people today to use?
well, they can get activated charcoal from the pharmacy and use it with water or use it with flaxseed. You can use flaxseed gel. It's not going to last like 8 hours, but it can last a couple of hours. It will work. I have a doctor in Jamaica that we were just talking today about it. and so he is in working in Jamaica using also the Essiac tea, and he's at the Gilead Lifestyle and Wellness Center. He was Dr. Wilbert Reeves, and he also uses Essiac tea, but they're using the activated gel, but with the flaxseed, and so but it only lasts for a couple of hours. And another thing that's very rewarding is that with the Essiac tea, it inhibits an enzyme just exactly like the corticosteroid is the called the 5-lipoxygenase. So it works like a natural corticosteroid without the side effects. So
Wow.
the people who use this for autoimmune diseases, it improves their life. So it works as a natural anti-inflammatory, as a corticosteroid, and also as a non-steroidal corticosteroid because it also inhibits another enzyme called the cyclooxygenase 2. And the reason why SCIT works with cancer because of it has 8 herbs, and each herb has different mechanism of action that it works in the body. And one of the great things is the anti-inflammatory. So it takes away the barrier, the tumor microenvironment, the angiogenesis, the myeloid-derived suppressing cells, and then so also allows the immune system to inhibit selectively the cell cycle of cancer, so it doesn't multiply. You understand? That's a monoclonal proliferation of red blood cells. So it stops the cycle, and it helps the body to induce them to die, a programmed death cell called apoptosis. So it does all these things, but usually in the beginning, when people start drinking it, they can see that the tumor may grow, but it's not hypertrophy. It's not that it's growing, but because you got a lot of these white blood cells going into the tumor, starts consuming them little by little. And then by the fourth, fifth time, you can start seeing that it starts to regress because the immune system will start consuming. And you can see so many testimonies at genuineSCI.com in the testimonies section. You will see hundreds of testimonies of people getting better. This has been existing for over 100 years, and people are just don't know about it.
That is the craziest thing. I mean, I always think that there's so many things out there that have been there for so long. Even in the study of fascial research, there's been so much that's come up in the last 25, 30 years. But if you look at historical research paper, it's not like as if we didn't know about it, but somehow or other, we just sort of set it aside for modern day medicine because the pharmaceutical industry, I think, is corrupt. I think that we just need to fund pharmaceuticals, and we were really not up for challenging the physical body to do what it's designed to do, which is to heal itself.
Dude, the money is not in the healing, it's in the treatment. You understand? That's why
Yes.
natural medicine is not good for business because people can get better. And I need everybody to understand the body constantly seeks to heal itself, to bring into the balance of life. This is called homeostasis. Sometimes the body can't do it on itself. You understand? Let's say you have a wound and it's trying to heal, but it can't heal because it has something inside. So you gotta clean it, you gotta put antibiotics on it, but it's going to heal by itself. I cannot do surgery, take out something, put something in, and close it. I'm not going to heal the body. The body's going to heal itself. I'm just helping the body get the stuff in order so it can heal. So the body constantly seeks to find the balance. In the same thing with cancer. It has no idea what's happening. There's this new metabolism, there's this DNA that is altered. What are we going to do? You can use phytochemicals to help the body in order to heal.
Yeah, so simple, but yeah, it just seems like we could all just adopt a little bit more on that. And, as a cancer researcher, you're a senior medical student. What's next for you? Are there any specific areas of oncology or natural medicine that you're particularly excited to explore?
Absolutely. In the 7 years that I work as a veterinary technician, I used to love doing research with Dr. Timothy Gibbs here, and I just got a passion for surgery. So I am looking forward to do become a general surgeon, apply everything that I've learned, and do more research in people who are surgery, and then maybe subspecialize in cancer patients because that's what my passion is, and passion promotes talent. So I'm looking forward for doing that, and also open a clinic here in Argentina with natural medicine. I'm already working with a lab here in Santa Fe, Argentina, called Cultivamente, that they do a lot of the mushroom extracts, the adaptogens, and they want to work with with Essiac Latinoamérica. So we're moving forward to work together, and hopefully we can open a clinic here nearby where I live, so we can use natural medicine based in scientific evidence.
I love that. In 2019, we had a International Fascia Research Congress in Berlin, and Dr. Peter Friedel had come to share his knowledge on cancer. And something that was fascinating to me is how a cancer cell, when it pushes itself into the fascial tissue, if the fascia pushes back, that's how it metastasizes. That's the connection between the two through the fascial system. And I had asked him, well, wouldn't it be something to stop cancer is to ensure that the fascial fluid flow is consistently in motion? And he was like, well, possibly. I mean, how would that occur? And I said, I think there's a lot of things we can do, right? There's a lot of things.
Weight training is one of the things,
Yes, movement.
Exactly. We're made to move, and a lot of a lot of these careers when you're just sitting down for many hours, it's just very bad for the body.
Yes.
Walk for 45 minutes a day. 5 days a week. Go walk for 30 minutes because you're going to save yourself so many diseases. These are called modifiable diseases because you can change them. Hypertension, diabetes. Having too much fats in the blood. If you can just learn how to eat less. I'm going to be 44. I've learned that I should only be eating once or twice a day, not eating so much, eating water. And then there's all the natural remedies, good sleep. I know that women have more hours to sleep than men, and, take some sun, breathe some fresh air, drinking 2 liters of water a day unless you got some kidney problems, the nutrition. And another thing is if you have a faith, learn how to meditate or pray is going to help you. And there's studies that shown that it's going to help you just lower all that ecstasies and when you're very anxious during the day, it's going to help you calm down so you can just have more endorphins and have a better life.
Yes, I hear a lot of people say, oh, I don't like to exercise or it's too hard. And I always try to focus on recovery, right? This concept of recovery that, in fact, going out for a walk in fresh air for 20, 30 minutes actually boosts your body's natural potential to recover. And that for people is mind blowing. I said, you don't need to always be lifting heavy stuff, right? You don't need to always be in the gym because if we're doing high intensity cardiovascular work or weight training, we are depleting the body. We are fatiguing the system and forcing the body to then repair. But if we then supplement also recovery days, which doesn't mean lay on the couch and eat popcorn, it means go out for brisk walks, breathe, meditate, move a little bit, natural stretching. These are all very valuable for people. And I think this is a great message that you're offering with these kind of
Absolutely.
conversations. Yeah.
If they can Google hope molecules, I learned this on the podcast from Joe Rogan. The hope molecules that you get from contracting your muscles. It really helps your body to just get much better. So your walking is the best exercise in the world. Because you're not putting so much cushioning into your knees, and just go walk 30 minutes. Drink water, sleep, and try to eat twice a day. Pass it. The whole thing about breakfast is the most important meal. Yeah, usually when you're in a growing phase, but there's a phase that we're no longer growing, so we gotta maintain.
Yeah, I mean, I think figuring out your own biological clock and what works for you is really important. I've found that I'm in my 50s now. I definitely am much different in my 50s than I was in my 30s and 40s, and caring for myself in different ways, looking at what my food sources are and being much more mindful because I'm pretty sure if I'm going to live a long life, I better take care of myself every day. And you should not wait for aging to start doing things about the aging process, right? I mean, this is a good message for anybody.
My mom is 65. She looks like she's 45. She's taking care of her life, her whole life. So I've learned from her. You got to do preventative medicines, the most important thing.
So if somebody is dealing with cancer right now, somebody has they've gotten a diagnosis of cancer. We have friends who have been recently diagnosed with cancer, and one thing I've learned is that hyperbaric chambers, they're like, cancer can't live in a hyperbaric chamber. And I said, well, if that's the case, then anybody who has cancer could just lay in a hyperbaric chamber every day and they would cure their cancer, but that can't possibly be. So what are some things, if you are diagnosed with cancer, what are some simple things that you would recommend people do right away to help their chances of survival?
Well, number one is education. You got to learn, things that are available not only from the pharmaceutical, but also in the world of natural medicine. You need to understand that cancer changes the metabolism. And you got to learn how to nurture yourself. It's not about diet; it's about nourishment. You got to learn about everything. And yes, cancer does feed from sugar, but it's not exactly true. It feeds from monosaccharides. So it's not only table sugar because you can also convert your proteins into the simple sugars in the blood. You understand? But it's less rapid that goes into the bloodstream. But it's learning how to feed yourself and doing exercising, using SCIT. You can use other things that people use in the world, like CBD oil or Rick Simpson oil. There is a lot of new repurposed medication that people are using, and there is evidence, regarding this repurposed medication. They can also use some probiotics like bifidobacterium antibiotics or Akkermansia type of probiotics. There's different types of probiotics for different types of cancer they can use that we need them. We usually had them when we're kids, but then we started losing them along the years. So there's different approaches that you can use as a strategy to help you overcome this disease, because it's a disease that can be overcome, and it has been done by millions of people, and we're just trying to share the information with the people that can take control over your health. You understand? And people always ask me, is there, this person has stage 4, has brain cancer, is there hope? As long as the person is alive, there's always hope. And yes, I have seen people that has gotten better with stage 4 brain cancer.
Amazing. I think I'm with you on that. If you're alive, there's hope. And I think that's a good message for anybody. So, just a little bit of a personal angle here. You've navigated so many cultural challenges in this journey, it sounds like. What's really kept you grounded and motivated through it all? Is it your spiritual practice that's really helped you the most?
Without a doubt, when I lived in the US, I lived a very disordered life. I was a veterinary
As do most
technician.
United States
Yeah,
residents.
I used to play a lot of volleyball. I played volleyball in college, so it was the way that I met Christ was through volleyball, through friends and pastors that played volleyball, and then ultimately I got into reading the Bible and getting baptized in the Seventh Day Adventist Church. And then a year after, I got baptized. That's when I got deported and got to into Colombia, and then I prayed, Lord, why this happened. Then instead of asking what for, I was asking why. But then he showed me the way. I came, I've conquered thanks to him. And so these years that I've been living here in Argentina, I started working with Genuine Essiac, and I have been able to help hundreds, not thousands of people in the last 5 years, thanks to Brian and Gina Paulus in Massachusetts with Genuine Essiac. So it is Jesus Christ, and I am grateful to my Lord that I'm in this position, and I know that I'm going to be helping a lot of people. So you're probably going to see me more somewhere on the internet.
Well, I'm so glad that I discovered you. And actually, the way that I connected with Leo was a Gary V had a post, and I saw you comment over it. And I can't remember what you said, but I then clicked on you and learned about you. And I'm like, who's this guy? Like, that sounds amazing. He's looking for a cure for cancer in a natural way. I was like, I got to talk to this dude. That just
Yeah.
sounded amazing. And one thing, I always think social media seems like such a waste of time. But then again, I've met some of the greatest minds because of social media. So I will give social media one thumbs up because of the connections that we make. I think that is absolutely